It was in 1961 that my elder sister, who lived in New York, introduced me to the voice of Nina Simone, and it was love at first note. I rushed out and bought Nina at the Town Hall, which I still consider to be her finest album because of the range of songs and her flawless rendition of every tune. 5 years later, I found myself in Nina Simone's dressing room at Montreal's Place des Arts, talking to her after a wonderful, professional, passionate performance. She was impeccably dressed with her Sunday-going-to-church hat on and a glass of vodka in her hand. She was eager to talk and to answer every question as fully as possible and with passion. It should be remembered that this was the mid-60s when the civil rights movement was in overdrive, a time when you could still use the term Negro rather than African American. Language was also more contained. When she talked about her protest song as Mississippi Beep Beep, she is referring to Mississippi Goddamn, but thought she should not cuss. This full interview has never been broadcast, so this is the first time it has been available on a global basis. I asked her first if she saw herself as a jazz singer or a performer.
I'm a performer, first and foremost, and very much like an actress who uses the tools at hand to convey some kind of communication between her and the audience. Mine happened to be piano and voice, but it is my desire every time I get on that stage to get some kind of rapport between me and that audience, if that answers your question. So I don't categorize myself at all as far as any type of singer. I'm a performer.
It has been said, I think Cannonball Adderley says this, that it's harder to get a rapport in concert than it is in a jazz club.
Miles says that too. Now, I think that's probably true for them. It isn't true for me. Maybe it's not true for me because originally I've been studying since I was 8, and I studied professional concert piano for 14 years, and I learned the advantage of having a captive audience who came mainly to see you. I learned this is easier for me. I cannot compete with the glasses and what have you. That disturbs me, and I can never quite get relaxed. But at a concert, after 10 or 15 minutes, I can. It's simply easier for me, and obviously it's not easier for them.
Were you a pianist first or a singer first?
Oh, I was a pianist first. I was a singer only because I found it necessary to make some money. I was going to be a real big concert star, piano, the whole bit. And then I had to make some money, and I took a job in a nightclub, and the owner came in and said, "Do you sing?" I said, "No, sir." He says, "If you want to keep this job, you'd better sing." I said, "I sing." And that was the beginning of the show business career. I sang with my 2 sisters in church when I was a youngster, but I always sang bass, and I was a fill-in, I didn't know that I could use what little equipment I have to project some kind of feeling. That I didn't know. But I had to do it, and so I did it, and I had an advantage in that I have perfect pitch and the things that make it easy for me to play in a key that's easy for me to sing, because my voice is limited, my range is limited. So when he said to me, "You have to sing," I simply took all of the popular songs I knew and put them in a key that I could sing them in.
What do you mean by limited?
Well, now, come on, we all have limitations. I don't have a vocal range technically of 2 or 3 octaves, such as Yima Summit has, and most of the opera singers. I just don't have it. I don't have it as much as Ella has it. And Ella can sing maybe in 3 or 4 ranges. I can't. I have to sing all my songs within a given amount of notes. That's what I mean by a limited range. Now, you wouldn't know this unless I told you, but it is so. And all of the keys are in a certain pitch so that I can sing them, because after a while things get too high for me to sing.
Cannonball Adderley again has said that one should play for an audience. That's the reason you're there. But that you should play what you want, the way you want to. Can you always do these two things?
Yes and no. It depends a lot on your own strength, psychologically, physically, and mentally. There are times when I'm not tired at all, and I know that I have something to give. And at those times, I will sing exactly what I want, for I know at those times when I'm at the peak of my strength, that if I do something that genuinely pleases me, and my standards are higher than anybody I know, I mean, I'm my own worst critic is what I'm saying. At those times, I know that what I have to give, you're going to like. And I know I'm going to like it. And at those times, no one can tell me what to play or how to play it. But there are times when you're physically exhausted and you take advantage of the fact that you either have a name, and certain people have come to hear you because you have a name or you're a star, or you may take another route. You may play the things that have made you famous, which is an easy way of getting through the night. And these things occur because you are human. For instance, tonight I am very tired, and if this audience had known Porgy and lots more songs that are associated only with me, I would have been quite content just to sing those songs, and I would have pleased them and pleased myself in that I pleased them. But when I'm at the peak of my strength, then I must do something creative, first for me. So basically, he's right.
What effect does an audience have on you?
Oh, tremendous. And that again depends on how I feel. They have no effect unless they're terribly boisterous when I'm feeling good. For I will go out there, and if it takes 2 hours and I have the time, I will hammer and hammer until I get them quiet. But at other times when you need them to respond to you and give you a little help, when you just don't feel too good, then if they don't give it to me and they're not warm, then I just feel like sitting down.
When you get an audience like this, what is your natural reaction? What do you want to do?
When I get an audience like that, I wish that at all times I had the strength to move them, but in order to move them, you have to be at the peak of your strength. When they're dull like that and they're not very responsive, then you have to stand on your head practically. And once you get them, they respond. But when you don't feel like it, you give them a dull show, or you get some inspiration from the musicians, or something spontaneous might happen sometime that makes you feel good all of a sudden. For instance, we did a concert about a week ago, and I was tired then too, but there was a little boy, I think he was 7 or 8, in the balcony, and I asked the kids to sing along with me on some tune, and I looked up and I noticed that he wasn't singing. And so I asked him a question, why aren't you singing? And he responded by shouting louder than anyone else. And it was so funny, and it was what I needed for the entire show. I felt better after that.
Your numbers that you choose range from out-and-out blues to Swedish love songs and tender love songs. Do you do this out of personal preference, or is this because of, shall we say, professional necessity?
You really asked some questions. First of all, they're personal preferences. I know what I do best, which is necessary. You should know, if you're an artist, what you do best, what best conveys what you can give. And since I like all music, and I have been influenced by all the music that I've heard all my life, I've been influenced by, I like all kinds of things, and so I try to give them all the things that I like. Now, however, there are times when you have to think of the pacing of a show, and this is when you are thinking mostly of your audience. You want them for egotistic reasons not to forget you. You don't want to be just another singer. So you try to somehow pace your show to hit an emotional climax at some time. For instance, you're given a half an hour to do a show. Well, now, you just can't get up there and sing song after song after song. It doesn't mean a thing. So you try to relate the first song to the second song. You following me? Somehow give them some type of total experience so that at the end of the performance, they have a remembrance of you, per se.
What were your early influences?
Bach, Czerny, Mozart, a little Debussy. My favorite was Bach. Marian Anderson I've always loved because she had so much dignity. I think that got through to me more than anything. I never knew whether she was great. I knew she was great, but I couldn't put my finger on why. But she had so much dignity. And she was a Negro woman, and I was very proud of her. Then there was Billie Holiday, who has known so much pain, but so tender with it. She influenced me. She influenced me by doing the things that she felt. I don't think she could do anything else. That's the beauty of her. By the way, she's the one who is totally responsible for my singing Porgy. You familiar with that? I learned it from her record. And then, of course, there were the blues singers, and most of all, I have to mention, the gospel singing that I heard in church influenced me tremendously. And that's no one person. That's a rhythm and a feeling, a rapport that you get in a big audience where you can't hear anything but rhythm for hours on end. It's the most fantastic experience. That influenced me more than anything, I think, because I was brought up with that. Since I was 3, I've been playing in the church.
Who are your influences now, if you have any influences now?
Now I don't have any influences when it comes to people. I am constantly trying to be more of whatever I am. And what influences me now is meeting people like yourself, people who from different countries, people with different ideas about life, people who live differently. That helps my music, strangely enough.
Of all the numbers you have recorded in the 700 numbers that you have in your repertoire, which is your personal favorite? Another loaded question.
No, and I have to answer you the same way I've answered several of your questions before. It depends on my mood, totally. When I tell you I like all kinds of music, I mean that. I do not like what they've done to rock and roll. I don't like the fact that all they got now is a beat and nothing else is considered. And I'm not talking about the good rock and roll. I'm talking about this crap you hear. That I don't like. But sometimes I'm in the mood and I can be tremendously moved by a blues, by Muddy Waters. And again, I want to hear something by Stravinsky. It depends completely on my mood. Because you see, I'm just a musician. I don't have preferences. If something is good, I like it. But I like the best of whatever there is.
Of all the numbers you have recorded, as your own worst or best critic, however you like to put it, which single number gives you most satisfaction?
All right, I'll tell you. I don't even think you've heard it yet. The song that gives me the most satisfaction is Pirate Jenny from the Threepenny Opera. Have you heard it? It's a complete actress's song, and I tell you, it is something. The night I did it, and the thing I'm talking about, being proud of, was at Carnegie Hall, and I had no idea it came out so good until I heard it, because I was just out of my mind with fatigue, and you know. But it has given me my biggest challenge. It's a tremendously hate-filled song, if you're familiar with it, and it's a heavy song. And that is my favorite, mostly, I suppose, because it gave me my greatest challenge. Now, I don't even do it now on stage. It's too hard. It takes too much out of you. But that's my preference these days.
At this point, there was an interruption, and so resumed with her talking about her love of Johann Sebastian Bach.
I admired Bach more than any other composer in the world, because first of all, technically he was clean. Every note was not muddled. And of course, he's been around for centuries. But in addition to being technically perfect, he was emotionally perfect. And in addition to that, he was detached from his music. Now, what I mean is this. I have to explain myself. When you play Bach and play him well, he's the hardest one to learn how to play. And usually the things that are the greatest are not easy to come by. This man had simple things that you had to get an ear to even listen to it. And he was so simple. He just took a melody and made 5 or 6 voices around that melody. But in order to play that melody right, you had to change the emotional feeling each time he put a voice in. And that takes tremendous discipline. To me, he is the master because he takes more discipline to play and play well. Because if you don't play Bach well, it just sounds like a jumbled up amount of notes. But if you play him well, these same notes that you keep repeating and keep repeating take on tremendous significance. And that's hard.
Yeah. You say that you described him as being detached from his music. Would you like to elucidate on this?
Well, I don't know if I can make myself clear, but let me put it this way. When you do a performance, and you do it just for yourself, and you're so emotionally wrapped up that you can't hear the technical flaws, you're in trouble. But if you can do a performance that is emotionally satisfying to yourself, and at the same time keep a distance from yourself and be able to also put yourself in the place of the audience and hear what they're hearing all the time you're playing, that's a tremendous feat. And to me, what he wrote was like that. I think that Bach could sit down and play Bach from a piece of music and play it well and not necessarily have to be moved by some experience to do so. I think he could play his compositions without any emotional inspiration. You understand what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think that if you called upon him to play, no matter how he felt, he could somehow project himself into the mood and play it. And then once it's finished.
Which is a complete opposite of you.
Oh, not quite. Not quite. My best performances have a sort of detachment and the discipline. I don't want to talk about it too much. I'll give all my secrets away. But discipline is required. Control is required. You can never forget, no matter how well you're doing, that you have a piano, that you have musicians to consider, that you have an audience. Once you forget these things, you get so involved with yourself that perhaps you're not even communicating to them, but you're having a ball. Well, that's just as bad as playing just for them and not playing for yourself. You have to maintain a balance. You have to be constantly aware that not only must you give of yourself, but you must give of yourself with control all the time, so that they understand what you're giving when you're giving it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Now, I know that's clear. I said that well.
Do you think that jazz can only be played by the American Negro?
I think this. Yes and no. And I'll give you a simile. If someone has studied all his life a poem, one poem, now follow me. If a little boy or a little girl has taken 5-6 hours every day to study a poem, and you haven't, now it makes sense, doesn't it, logically, that he, providing he has the imagination, all the things that I'm implying, that he could somehow put more meaning into that poem than someone who has not given that time. Does that make sense to you?
Sure.
All right, now let me finish. Now, to me, the Negro obviously feels quicker jazz music and blues than white people for obvious reasons. He's had simply more to spare in this particular idiom. Out of his despair came these blues. To me, it's total background. To me, it's total exposure, imitation, background. Of course, I have no qualms about that. I mean, I don't care what people think about Elvis Presley, but Elvis Presley has a part of him that is good and sincere and knows what he's talking about because he was down there. He lived it. It's the same case of, like, you've seen social workers who never get out in the street, or you must have heard of them, who don't even know what's happening out there. All they know is from books. But if they augmented their knowledge by getting out there and experiencing it, they would be a little bit more akin to the problem. This, to me, is basically the same. Now, I do not think, you see, now I get the implication here that just because you're colored, you automatically feel jazz or blues more. No, 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 no. I have seen colored people now who can't keep rhythm, honey. No, 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 no. I think it depends on your background, where you lived, how you lived, the amount of despair you had, the amount of exposure you had to hearing of people talk about despair and singing about it. And despair, blues, etc., etc., etc. And if they were white and they knew about this, of course. There's a fellow, I won't mention his name, but there's a fellow in Harry James' band who is so down, it's terrible. It's just wonderful guy because of where he comes from. And he's not colored.
Before you, in mentioning Marian Anderson, you mentioned that she had a great amount of dignity. Jimmy Brown was talking on the subject of dignity in the Negro. He said that it was important that young Negroes should understand they didn't have to sing and dance and clown for the white man. Now, this is a point that many other people have made, and especially Miles Davis is very vehement on it. In an indirect way, doesn't this take a backhand swipe at you, Nat King Cole, Sammy Davis?
No, because if I were getting out there doing something that was not part of me, it would hurt me. But I happen to be a musician. I happen to be. Now, the very fact that someone stereotypes me because of it has nothing to do with the fact that I am a musician. And I don't care if I were white, green, or blue. As long as I have the background, the talent that I have, I'm a musician. So it doesn't affect me. I agree with him that you don't have to do these things, but if you happen to be good at doing these things, why not? As long as you are being true to yourself and not dividing it. For instance, when you get out there and perform, like I'm talking to you, as long as I'm telling you what I really feel, I have no guilt. What is going to be guilty about? As long as I'm saying what's coming out of my heart, then there's nothing wrong with me having an interview. But if I'm going to have an interview just because you want it, and answer questions that I think you want to hear a certain way, then I'm being untrue to myself, and therefore I would be guilty of what he's talking about. But I'm not. I happen to be a musician, and I try to play and sing as much as I can of what I feel. And therefore it doesn't touch me. I admire the article. In fact, as I cut it out, I collect these articles.
The very accelerated move for integration over the last 2 years, do you feel that they are trying to go too fast or not fast enough?
Oh, now, come on. Now, that's not even a good question. Has nothing to do with fast or slow. Has to do with what should have been all my life and my mama and grandmama before. Has nothing to do with being fast or slow. If someone else is given some human rights, I want mine simply because I'm a human. It's just that simple. I don't think the question is fast or slow at all. When you put it in that vein, it implies that there should be a fast or slow. Do we ask whether it's right to try to control the hydrogen bomb? It's an obvious thing. We got a thing here, we got to learn how to control it. Well, all right, I'm a human being. You're a human being. If you're given a privilege to wash your hands, then I am too, from the strength that I'm a human being. That's all. And I don't think it's a question of fast or slow. We've been too slow in knowing that we were going to have to fight to get our rights.
Do you feel that the riots of the last 6 months or so have helped or hindered in this cause for integration?
I'll tell you what I feel. I believe anything we do as Negroes, anything we do to help promote and accelerate what we should have had when we were born is good. Now, you have to understand what I mean. I'm talking on the broadest scope possible. To me, there's no such thing as hindering rights, and I will elaborate. Jomo Kenyatta is the Prime Minister of Kenya, and I'll just finish by elaborately saying the same man led the Mau Mau, organized it many years ago. The same man. They spread bloodshed everywhere. But no one denies that they didn't win, and it was a terrible thing that was done. A lot of innocent people were killed. But it got the point, it accelerated the nation's independence. And in that sense, when you look back on it now, you say, and here he is the Prime Minister. I mean, I got no more to say than that. To me, when you have been denied your rights, then you have a right to do anything to get them, if they're not going to be given to you. If they're going to be given to you, yes, be patient, ask for them, be courteous, be mannerly, be dignified. But if you have been proven over and over again that you're not going to get them, that's it. I don't know. I know this. I know that my people are slowly getting their rights. I know that it's easier for us to live without having to look around our shoulders all the time and having to be ashamed all the time. That's all I know, and I know that it's going to get better. Civil rights bill or not, it's going to get better. I haven't even thought extensively about the bill per se. I'm glad it's passed, but there was a similar bill passed in '54. But all I know is it's inevitable that we're going to get our equal rights. Does that answer you?
I've heard a record that Nina Horn made called Now, sung to the tune of Hava Nagila.
Oh, mine's more explosive than hers. Mine's called Mississippi Beep Beep. Beep Beep is it's a bad word, so I can't say it. You haven't heard about it?
No.
Oh, it makes Now look sick. The only place that we have to sing our love songs, I mean, let's face it now. Nobody protests when we sing love songs, do they? No one cares when we get them excited. They love us to death. Now, don't we have a right to also tell them how we feel in terms of hate? You answer me.
I think so.
Oh, so why hasn't she got a right to get up there and say the things that mean something to her? They love her as long as she's satisfying them. Why shouldn't she satisfy her? And if this is the thing that's on her mind the most, she does have a right, because that's the only place where she's going to get a mass audience to hear it.
What do you consider has been the greatest single step in the fight for equality?
When those lovely young kids in the South decided we're not going to take no more of this, we're going to go out and demonstrate. They didn't talk it. They didn't listen to their mama's and daddy's approval. They didn't care. They got off of it and went out in the street and said, okay, you give it to me or you arrest me. That, to me, was the biggest major step. The young people who had the courage to get out there and practice what they preached.